From the studios of KHTS in beautiful downtown Newhall, California, it's time once again for Families in Action with your host, Cary Quashen. Families in Action is brought to you by Action Family Counseling, alcohol and drug counseling for teens and adults, and by the Action Family Foundation, and by KHTS AM 1220, your hometown station. And now, here's the man with the most. Here's your host, Cary Quashen.
The man with the most? I thought that was you, the Silver Fox.
The Silver.
You know they call him the Silver Fox? Pretty cool, huh? You know what I was thinking on the way here? I got a couple of emails. And one is that, I'm not going to mention the name, but did you hear that blah, blah, died of an overdose last night? And then it says heroin.
Yeah.
And, I mean, it's just, it never ceases to amaze me what's going on here. And here's another one. Heroin takes another life. And this time it was my mother. For anyone who knows, blah, 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 rest in peace. That's a different one.
So sad.
So 3 people in the last week that I know I know of, died from heroin. So in last week we did a show. And we were talking about almost 50,000 lives are lost every year from opioids. And that's heroin and other drugs, which was crazy. In fact, we even had the Channel 4 News here.
We did. We had NBC here in the studio.
Yeah, we had NBC here in the studios, and you'll be able to see a little bit of that tonight if you have Time Warner on Channel 4. I don't know what other stations it's on. Check your local field. But if you want to watch this show, it's every Monday at 4 p.m. So last week's show will be on tonight, and that we were talking a lot of stuff. We had Keith Oden from the LA Fitness. He's one of my trainers. We were talking about that, but then we got into the heroin and the loss of lives, and the news is doing a whole big thing on that. So it's really it's getting out of hand. It's out of hand.
And you talk frequently on this program about how people get involved with things like heroin, which used to be, let's stay away from that because you have to inject it.
Before you go any further, I mean, it's like we're talking about this every week, and at least for part of the show, and it's actually pretty clear why, because every week something happens.
Right.
And when you're working in the field of treatment like I am, and you notice 50,000 lives being lost, I see lives being lost every week. I mean, I see it, hear it, know it. So it's like, it's fresh in my mind every week.
Right.
So it's something that I have to deal with always.
And you talk about how people get involved with it by starting off with a cigarette, then they go to marijuana, and then they're nice and high at a gathering, and somebody says, "Hey, try this stuff."
Right.
And they don't even know what they're really getting into because there's a lot of stuff
right.
that they don't know. And I was just going to mention that I had an experience on Friday when I was leaving the hospital of exactly what we talk about every day, and it was somebody that was absolutely loaded that came to the hospital and was so loaded they asked me, "How do you get to the hospital?" And they were standing right there, and I started to direct them to the ED, and I realized they weren't going to be able to figure it out, and I could tell by the way the person was acting that they had done methamphetamines. And here's what the person said to me: "I took something. It wasn't what I thought it was something else."
Right. And that happens all the time. These kids go to parties, they're starting to smoke some weed, somebody puts something on it, and before you know it, they're in the ED. So we see that all the time, yes?
We sure do.
So it's just crazy out there right now when it comes to substance abuse. And I hope I try to get this across on the news and here. But the most dangerous thing is people are saying to me all the time, why is it so bad? It's pretty simple. If you look at social media and adolescents and peer pressure, it's way different than it's ever been before. And I scream this every week. I'm going to scream this at least for a minute on every show we do. Parents, listen to this. We spend between 2 and 10 minutes a day with our kids. How was your day? It was good. How was school? It was okay. Do you have any homework? I done it. Are you hungry? I ate. So they go, so the last thing your adolescent does before they go to sleep is check their Instagrams or their snapshots or whatever it is that they're doing. That's before they go to sleep. Last thing. First thing they do when they wake up is check their Instagram or Snapchat, whatever it is, right? Yeah. So it's like bang, 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 and then they go to school. school. Then we come home and we have 2 minutes and they're with their friends 16 hours. Want to know why substance abuse is off the hook right now? It's pretty clear. Want to know why adolescents is using drugs so much right now? It's pretty clear. You want to know why there's so many overdoses? Actually pretty clear. Kids are experimenting at a younger age. The substances that the kids are using today is not like what we did when we were kids. The drugs are different. They're so much more powerful that we're losing lives, and now we're what you call in a crisis. Mm-hmm. We're having a crisis. I mean, it's off the hook. People are dying, so it's pretty clear. Pay attention to what's going on in your home. Pay attention to your kids. Pay attention to your adult kids.
Right.
Pay attention to your brothers and sisters, uncles, aunts, grandparents, uncles, and whoever else when it comes to that. And hey, if you think there's a problem, there probably is.
You know, there's a site, Cary, that I see often, far more often than I would like to see, and it's very, very sad. And that is, you go out to eat someplace for dinner, for lunch, or whatever.
I already know where you're going.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
And you look over at a table next to you, and here's a family, and they sit down, and the second they sit down, everybody in the family pulls out their cell phones and starts texting.
Yeah.
And that's so sad. Because,
or checking their Facebooks.
Exactly.
They want to post a picture and see how many people are going to like their poster and who is going to like their poster.
And you know, I remember when I was a kid, and I always thought it was cool, whenever we went out someplace, if my dad was working, my mom would take us somewhere and we would sit down. The moment we sat down, Mom would start talking to us. Hey, how's this going? How's that going? Are you playing with so-and-so? And we get to know each other that way a little bit. I got to know my mom a little bit. Mm-hmm. She got to know me. She knew what was happening with me, my brother, my sister. And when you see that happening, you know, I've been in situations in a restaurant where I'd look over and I'd see two tables side by side. One table where the family's actually talking and enjoying their time together, and the other one where they're there together, but they're not together. They're all on their cell phones.
All right. No, it's really pretty sad when you see a family sitting down or a family function, a party, whatever it is, and everybody's having fun, and then you see 3 or 4 people on their Facebook or texting, or I mean, whatever the deal is. It's like, come on, be part of this deal. Be part of the family. Be a unit. You know, get off your Facebook and stuff like that. I mean, it's just it's crazy. Wow. It's frustrating. It frustrates me. I mean, I went to lunch today. I mean, before this Mondays I try to eat early, so I went to Starbucks, got my little soda, I don't drink soda, my tea, and a sandwich, and then I'm sitting there. I'm watching. I always watch because of what we do. And there's a table with 4 or 5 people, and one is sitting there looking up in the sky, and the other 3 is on their phones. So it's like, it's family, friends, everything. It's like, come on, guys, be together.
You know what we're going to talk about today, Cary?
Yeah, I do. But you're going to tell us.
We've talked about this before, enabling, but it's so important. And what we've been talking about, this leads right into it. I have a story. Would you like to hear the story?
I would. You said you wrote a story.
This will lead us right into it.
I want to hear it.
This is actually a true story. On June 25th, 2013, a 16-year-old boy and a group of his teen friends were seen on a surveillance video stealing a case of beer in Burleson, Texas. Later, that same 16-year-old driver was going 70 miles an hour in a 40-mile-per-hour zone in his father's pickup with several of his friends riding in the bed of the pickup. Near the road, a group of people were helping a woman with a stalled car. The 16-year-old driver of the speeding pickup now had a blood alcohol level 3 times the legal limit in the state of Texas. He lost control of his father's pickup and ran into the crowd, killing 4 people and injuring 9 others. Later at his trial, psychologist G. Dick Miller testified that the teen's parents had given the teen freedoms no young person should have. The psychologist went on to say that this kid had medical problems and a social anxiety disorder, among other issues, and that the teen had used alcohol as his medicine. The psychologist then used a term to describe the teen. The psychologist said he used the term to describe what used to be called spoiled brats, and said the term was not a diagnosis. The term the psychologist used was affluenza. The then 16-year-old's name is Ethan Couch, also known as the Affluenza Kid. His mother and father have now become the stars of the poster for enabling parents. At his trial, the judge handed out a sentence of 10 years probation, and his parents agreed to send Ethan to Newport Beach, California, for an intensive drug and alcohol program to the tune of $450,000 a year. And as we all know, Ethan and his mother ended up running away to Mexico, but both are now back in custody in Texas, and this horrible story will continue. This case points out one very important point about addiction. Enabling can lead to horrible consequences. In this case, 4 people are dead and 9 are injured, several of them severely, and at least one will never be able to speak or feed themselves again.
It's a tragedy.
Yeah.
I mean, it is. It's a tragedy. And when we talk about 50,000 lives lost just from overdoses, we're not even looking at car crashes.
Yeah.
We're not looking at all the other reasons why people die when it comes to substance abuse. We're not looking at the 90% of people that are in jails and institutions are there because of alcohol and drugs. We're not looking at the child abuse, date rape. Want me to go on? I mean, I can go on forever.
Yeah.
And then you got, and I hear it all the time. I mean, we have support groups that parents come in, and when they get there, sometimes these kids are so out of control, and I'm saying to myself, my God, how in the world did it get this far? It just blows my mind. It really does. But it's really simple. This is why it goes this far.
Enabling.
Because we allow our kids to do anything they want to do. We make false threats, false promises, and just clean up their mess. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I had a parent that came to group last week, and the kid was gone for 3 days. And he says, "Don't worry about it. My mother called the school and told them I was sick."
Oh.
It's like, wait a minute. How do you expect this child ever to learn any kind of thing that for every action there's a reaction? You know,
Right.
For every negative there's a negative. For every positive there's a positive. This kid runs away from home, parties, uses drugs, comes home, mom calls the school, said it's all good, he's sick. So you think he's going to do that again? Of course he is.
Of course.
People change when they have to, when the behaviors, when the consequences outweigh the fun they think they're having or the payoff. This kid,
Yeah.
and the really sad thing about this is, and I've seen this over and over and over again, we parents, right, like mom here, we make it cushy for these kids.
Sure do.
If they do something wrong, we clean up their mess.
We pay the fine.
We pay the fines. And in this case, we run away with our kid to protect him. He was not even in jail. He was on probation.
Right.
Now, where is he?
Well, I think most of America's hoping they know where he's going to go.
Yeah. So the saddest part about all this deal is, as people enable people more and more and take consequences away, these children believe that there is no such thing as consequences, so they keep acting out until all of a sudden one day, boom, something horrible happens, and guess what? Mom and dad, you can't cover for them anymore. Right. Now they're going to pay consequences.
Exactly.
I was dealing with this girl, same thing, in Simi Valley about 10 years ago, and she kept messing up. And mom kept going to the police, saying she's running away, she's using drugs. I mean, over and over and over and over again. But there was no consequences, because it really isn't illegal to do that. So this kid just kept getting away with stuff, and then she did some burglaries, and she did some of this, and she got caught, and she went to court figuring, well, it's not a big deal. They gave her 5 years in prison.
Yeah, where they don't usually enable you very much.
And the girl fainted.
Oh, my.
She had no clue. I mean, what do you mean I'm going to prison? The mom fainted, too.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was one of those kind of crazy things where reality hit.
Wow. Cary, I know you know this. There are listeners out there that probably don't. 3 types of enablers. We talk about enabling, and they're saying, what is that?
Right.
Did you know that there is a provoker, a rescuer, and a victim.
Tell us about it.
Listen to this. Provokers react to their kids out of anger. They try to control a teen. They have a very hard time allowing teens to make their own decisions and learn from their mistakes. Provokers' behavior includes yelling, nagging, judging, putting down others. Oh boy. Provokers set boundaries that are unrealistic.
And I hear that too from a lot of kids. I got to do this, and this, and this. I'm like, wow, there's no way you can do that. Yeah, because the parents are so rigid.
Right.
It's just like, okay, give this kid a break.
Wow. Now, here's another one. The rescuer. The rescuer reacts to their children out of feelings of guilt, hurting their children with negative behaviors and continually threatening them with consequences. Parents then want to make amends by doing something nice. Some parents use money and other enticing rewards. The most damaging and common rescuer behavior is being inconsistent with consequences,
And
saying no
by the way,
and then giving in.
This is what I see mostly.
Yeah, yes.
Really, the rescuer.
Yeah.
I see
I'm only
this,
chuckling because you talk about this all the time.
I see this
One more
all the
chance.
time. But you know why most parents do that, Mike? It's guilt, but you know what it really is?
Love.
We want our kids to love us,
Yeah.
no matter what. When our kids are angry, we get sad. When our kids say, I hate you, it breaks our heart.
Right.
So in reality, I don't have to go anywhere, do I? We know where I'm going.
No, and there's one more, victims. But before I say this, you've touched on something, Cary, and that is that a parent can shift quickly from one enabling role to another.
Right.
So here's the third one.
But before you go to the third one, let's stay with the second one.
Okay.
So
the rescuer.
Why is it that we allow, that how do I say this? That we challenge our own beliefs, that we surrender,
Right.
we give up, we allow our kids to do things, even though we know we should not. Even though we know it's a bad idea, that it's a bad thing for our children, we give in. What message really are we giving our kids?
Oh, well, totally wrong messages, that's for sure.
And I hear it all the time and when I'm dealing with children in some of our groups, and I say, your mom and dad are getting really tired of this, and they laugh.
Yeah.
They
So
say,
what?
They're not going to do anything.
Yeah.
I was talking to a kid that was in our rehab the other day. They actually called me and said, get up here. He's pretty angry. And I'm talking with this kid, and you know what he finally said? He says, so for all these years, my father lets me get away with anything I want to do. Why all of a sudden does he decide he wants to be a father? Why all of a sudden does he decide I need to be in a place when he could have stopped me years ago?
Right.
And you know what all I said? All I could think of was, you're right. Bottom line is, that's the truth, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
So he figured it out.
Let me get into the last one before we go on break. Listen to this. Okay, so we have provokers, we have rescuers, and then we have victims. Victims don't understand how their teen can't appreciate everything they've done for them. These parents get back-talked, verbally abused, and very little cooperation from their teens. They feel sorry for themselves, the victims do, and they complain to others about how poorly they are treated.
And the whole world's against them.
Yes.
They're a victim to everything and everybody. And I want to talk a little bit more about that when we come back from break. That's for sure. But if anybody else wants to be included in our conversation, I know it's scary to call in, but you can at 661-298-5487. That's 661-298-5487. We won't bite you, I promise, will we?
And we will enable them to speak on the air with us.
We absolutely will. Hey, Mike.
We'll be right back with more Families in Action right here on KHTS AM 1220, your hometown station.